about your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures, and then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Ooh-wee, it's cooking. Let's get to it. Story number 1, new apartment set for Boardman. Trustees and Boardman have approved a zoning change that will enable a 50-unit senior apartment complex. The construction will start on a 4-story complex off of South Avenue near Ruley Brothers. Now, the apartment complex will house residents 55 and older who meet qualifications to live at the complex. The estimated cost, according to one Vindicator report, is about $14 million. The complex will have 1 and 2 bedroom units, on-site management, community and fitness rooms, and a sophisticated intercom system to monitor who comes in and out. Water, trash, sewer, and internet fees will be included in the rent, and residents will have to pass a criminal background check. The apartments will be income-based. That's why story number 1 crept in this week. Story number 2, is an ambulance study needed? Youngstown City Council will consider paying $50,000 for an ambulance study, according to a Vindicator report. The legislation considered will be the amount of up to $50,000 for a firm to study cost effectiveness for Youngstown to create its own ambulance service. Now, the study has faced some criticism. Samantha Turner of District 3rd Ward, said there has to be a better way to find a company to do the study rather than a Google search. That's what they were doing. They were searching by Google to find a company. Now, this is all after the contract breakdown of AMR services, after EMT is now serving the Youngstown City community. And cost is everything in the story because they're trying to trim the cost as much as possible because it costs a lot to serve the city. That's why story number 2 made it in this week. Story number 3, a raise for the sanitary engineer, Pat Giannetti. Now, a pay increase has been approved for Pat Giannetti. He will go from $3,000 per month to $3,690 per month. Short story, but it's got a lot of girth to it because Pat, I guess he's been working hard. They finally decided to give him a raise. Big headline. Story number 3, talking money. Story number 4, $285,000 for MCCTC. $285,000 is the number set for the Mahoning County Career and Technical Center. The money will come from the federal government for its innovative Energy and Technology Workforce Training Center. Now, the project is set to be completed in the fall. The new facility, labeled to be state-of-the-art, will be used for specialized instructor training, staffing, operations, and training equipment. That's what all this is for, and that's why story number 4 crept in this week. Story number 5, Canfield looking for new city manager. Canfield is looking for a new city manager. The city has hired a firm to handle the search. The city is looking for someone who with chief executive officer level experience. These are high qualifications. Now, Wade Calhoun stepped down August 26 after being investigated for violating the city's code of conduct. The article goes on to mention how the city has had 30 applications, but none have fit the criteria for the job. If the job hasn't been filled yet, this show airs on Sunday. But at last time checked, they were looking for someone to fill the position. That's why story number 5 crept in. Story number 6, life goes on in East Palestine after the train derailment. For some reason, the East Palestine trail derailment story started off slow, with some slow coverage, and then just all of a sudden the push something pushed it into major headlines even more as they actually started to evaluate what was going on. Now, there have been so many local headlines to choose from, but life has gone on for East Palestine. Now, one headline talks about how residents are concerned about toxic gases still lingering in the air. The district is also concerned about water contamination. Now, what is scary is the fact that vinyl chloride is a carcinogen, because it causes cancer. Now, vinyl chloride was the substance that was burned, but it is less toxic than other substances. So now the big talk is about what this substance, what harm it does while being in the air. So this is why story number 6 always made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you. The only thing is to keep you informed, folks. I can't really do much more, But my goal is to keep you informed. If you're learning something, if you're getting in tune with the stories, then I'm reaching that goal. If not, then I'll try a little harder maybe next week. Story number 7 is economic growth in Ohio's future. Governor Mike DeWine has gone on the record stating that Ohio must be ready for economic growth. Now, according to one Vindicator report, DeWine wants the General Assembly to pass his proposed $203 billion budget. Let me correct myself before I get too ahead of myself now, which includes a one-time allocation of $2.5 billion for his All Ohio Future Fund. The fund would prepare a statewide infrastructure plan for large economic development. This has never been done before. Now, there is a lot in DeWine's plan, from scholarships to innovation hubs and even ways to make it more convenient for businesses wanting to do more business in Ohio. This story is still developing. That's why it almost made it to the top this week. We're talking the future of Ohio. Big head. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news stories that made it this week. Some people probably say, well, what pleasure do you get out of being the mediator or being some type of a commentator or even a news reporter in some sense? And to be honest with you, I just grew up liking to write. Never thought I'd actually wanted to do it professionally, but I just like to write, like to read. And the sad part about it, when I was younger, I liked to do more writing than reading. But I went to college, took some classes on journalism and English, and I was always writing and using my mind. So I think some people are just destined to do certain things in life. I mean, I didn't grow up wanting to do this. It just happens. And I think that's the magical part about life. When people live life, they always grow, I'm going to grow up and be a millionaire. I'm going to grow up and be the president. I'm going to grow up and be a Black History major and Black History Month. But no, some people just grow up and be like me. I just decided to pick up a pen and a pad, get me a little camera, and start preaching the gospel of mediation to the world, folks. Ooh-wee! That makes me special in some sense. Well, let's get to this top story. Story number 8. What Youngstown needs, folks. Youngstown has land, water, and spaces for businesses. So what are the current residents saying that the city needs? Downtown has a little bit of a nightlife. The area has parks that have the potential to draw more tourism. The area also has a skating rink, bowling alleys, and even more theaters. The Mahoning County has gyms, a university, and a plethora of sports events. The area is also cheap to live. So taking the attention away from the 2% that commits the crimes, the valley may not be so bad after all. The only thing I have not seen that was in Youngstown years ago is an amusement park. So the thing is, the story number 8 is what is there to complain about? Let's try and work with what we get, folks. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in. The grass always looks greener on the other side, so don't you go anywhere. I'll be right back here in the media with me, Brian West.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints,
event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
We are way out of our league on this one. We are not supposed to be in this deep. We're into some kind of science fiction stuff here. The Field Angels is an investigative unit for youth.
The last thing I heard him talk about was a nucleus or something.
The nucleus is the biggest conspiracy we feel like came out.
Is it real?
7 years ago, you wanted to be a superhero, and you wanted little kids to be your superhero project.
Kid, get down on the ground now. What are you doing? Put your hands up. Hands up. Get down.
I thought I told you MK was dead.
When was the last time you had a vacation?
I'm fine. Whoever is controlling this nucleus has found a way to move matter with photon particles.
You mean like a spark?
You apply it to the light, the photon particles, it attracts.
If anything happens to one of these girls, surely they will shut us down.
We lose it right now. Big.
You have 24 hours to get back here with that other field angel, or don't bother, because nobody here will have a job.
I have practiced science my entire adult life, Mr. Daniels. That statement you just made makes you sound like an idiot.
What treatment?
Somebody want to tell me what's going on?
You know what I hate most of all? An undisciplined child.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that have made it this week. Folks, if I've learned one thing, and I've been learning a lot, especially to take the time to read about Black History Month and it's President's Day. And this is the time where we acknowledge the presidents, that have served. And if I have learned anything, is that people always plan I think their natural instinct, most of them, is to want to do the right thing, and then sometimes they take on this job, and they feel like oh my God, it's more than what I expected. I think everybody wants to get into something being liked. I got into this business. I remember when I got into radio and I started doing TV. And I would always think, I said, when I get into it, I'm going to not talk politics. I'm going to interview people, and it's going to be glory, and everybody's just going to all come together and sing "Who About You." That's not the case. It's not the case. Sometimes you'll set up an interview and person won't show up. You'll ask the wrong question, and that's the life when you decide to get into something. It's not always what it cracks out that you think it's going to be. That means that life is not planned. You think you got a plan, but it's never going to turn out the way you want it. So just to make a long story short, this President's Day and Black History Month, everybody wants to change the world, but first of all, we just got to deal with what we got, the hand that we're dealt. Some people have made decision to run for president, some have won, and we just got to deal with it. So that's what I've learned this Black History Month. Take a slap in the face, sit down, relax. I'm only the mediator. I can't be everything. So I just got to deal with it. I've had to come with the fact that I can save some people, but I can't save the world. Whew-wee. Glad I got that off my chest. Well, folks, let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Can't save everybody, but can save some people. I can sing a song if I want to, baby. Oh, yeah. Ooh, story number 1. Babies born with syphilis cause concerns. Lack of care is what got this story in after a USA Today article headline homed in on how it's time to sound the alarm on a surge in babies being born with syphilis. Now, according to this headline, that's mainly happening in the South. The cases across America are starting to increase, so they're starting to take notice. Now, in 2021, Mississippi saw 106 cases. That's more than 9 times the rate in 2018. Now the focus is on the cause. This story draws alarms on how in recent years syphilis cases have tripled across the United States, according to the CDC. Now, about 21% were among the Hispanic woman population, and roughly 40% of those cases were among black women. So that's showing that racial disparities seem to be a factor in the data in this report. Now, the article is very, very informative and even describes what syphilis is and how it affects babies undetected at birth, and it's hard to detect at birth if they don't get tested. That's why story number 1 made in this week. Story number 2, another mass shooting. 3 people killed and 5 injured in a Michigan State shooting rampage. The gunman is dead, but here we are again down the mass shooting road. Now, according to a USA Today report, the gunman was 43 years old and had a previous gun violation. Last check, the police are still looking for a motive. Now, at the moment, authorities say Anthony Dwayne McCrae, who was on probation for a previous gun offense, has some mental health issues. McCrae was not a student or employee of Michigan State, but somehow managed to cause terror. Now, the question now on lawmakers' minds is, could this have been prevented, and if so, how? That's why story number 2 crept in this week. Story number 3, student enrollment down at Washington School District. The COVID-19 effect crippled the Washington School District as they considered closures, with student enrollment numbers down big. They're down a lot. Now, the Fox News report says that consolidation efforts are being considered. The city schools lost more than 3,500 students since the pandemic and expected to lose another 3,000 by the year 2025 and 2026 school year. Now, this would mean a 12.5% decrease in enrollment over 6 years. This is all while homeschooling rates in Washington have nearly doubled. That's why story number 3 made in this week. Big headline. Story number 4, energy grid alert in California. The energy grid in California faces collapse. This is a story headline as leaders push for renewable energy. Now, the Fox News report goes in detail explaining how the electric vehicle push has forced the electric grid to have years of potential blackout failures. Have some years. Now, the story is just another heated debate brewing on what the attack on fossil fuels is doing to the bigger picture of energy consumption. Now, this is all after a state plan to slash greenhouse gas emissions by 85%. The article goes on to cite the big challenges ahead for California's energy goals. Now, the article is a nice read packed with information about what is actually taking place to reach the infrastructure goals, to be able to accommodate California's energy goals, and to be able to keep the grid working. Now, the report even includes feedback from readers. It's a very, very big report, and it kind of enlightens you on this energy war that's taking place. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor the program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Yes, folks, it is President's Day, and if anybody knows anything about losing and never getting the candidate that you want to win, it's me. And that's the saddest part about President's Day. But another thing about President's Day that you'll learn is that in the founding of this nation, a lot of presidents didn't make it. I mean, they get elected, next day, pow, oh, they shot, president dead. And I think that's when everybody, all these guys who had all these bright ideas. The crazy part about America is I think that they created a lot of policies with good intentions, but later found out that there's something about these American people that we might have to protect this brother. But I think a lot of these guys get in there with good intentions. You know, you had like the Kennedys, Abraham Lincoln, and you could tell by the speeches that they mean well, and it's most of them, not all of them, but they get in there. And then next thing you know, bullets are flying. They're talking about people taking over Washington or some talk about insurrection. No. Donald Trump wants to save America, or Obama wants to save the United Wall Street and all that. President Bush wants to save Iraq. Joe Biden is suffering from dementia. These are all the things that happens, but for the president. But it's a tough job. And a lot of these guys get in there, and I think a lot of them do have good intentions. I think most of them, some of them probably want to save the world. But at the end of the day, they finally realize after they're getting their life shot at, people dying, falling around them, people coming up with no arms, throwing shoes at them and everything. I think they finally just realize that I can't please everybody. And I think some of them probably sit down. You know, you had guys like Roosevelt or a lot of Republican presidents that have come and gone, Reagan, and I think some of them just sit down and look at the mirror and say, I think I'm going to think about myself today and take a break, go to sleep. Well, folks, that's what we think about this president today. A job that not too many people can take on, but most people do, and some of them don't make it out alive. Some of them didn't make it out alive. Whew, glad I got that off my chest this President's Day. Oh, let the sun shine in for the president. Sun shine in for the president. Oh, we need some president. Well, folks, let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 5. A little sloppy on the delivery, but I was able to pull through. Story number 5. The China mystery, folks. Speaking of presidents. Probably this is not communism. Now, whatever is going on in China now has the world's attention. Start magically putting balloons in the sky. Now, this is after surveillance balloons have been detected over the Middle East, according to the U.S. Air Force. Now, recent news about China, the Chinese balloons over America, also made headlines in what appears to be a mystery in Chinese functions. What is going on in China? Now, although no apparent danger has been reported, observers at the end of the day just really want to know what is going on in China. What's up with the balloons? That's why story number 5 crept in this week. Story number 6. Is there a winning formula for the U.S.-Mexico border? Folks, Senator Ted Budd has introduced a bill forcing the Biden administration to restart border wall construction, if that'll help. Now, the Fox News report talks about unlocking $2.1 billion. The question now is if a wall is actually a winning formula when it comes to the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, the Build the Wall Now Act aims to remove illegal impediments preventing border wall constructions. Now, if the bill passes, it will require border wall construction to restart within 24 hours, preventing the Homeland Security from canceling any of the contracts related to the border wall constructions. And it requires the Secretary to uphold all negotiated border wall agreements, according to the extensive Fox News report. Now, Customs and Border Protection saw an estimated 718,000 border encounters beginning in 2023, and in December, Border Patrol agents stopped 17 people on the FBI's terror watch list. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week, because the border, there has to be a winning formula. Big help. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news story that made it this week. I believe in one thing, folks, and that is that freedom is amazing, and that being informed and freedom is even better. And that's why I come in here every week voluntarily giving you these stories. So let's get to these top two that made it in. Story number 7, tech layoffs continue. A BBC reports that Yahoo plans to slash 20% of its workforce, adding to a long list of tech companies making headlines in what seems like a restructuring phase brought on by COVID-19 shutdowns and work from home adjustments. Now, layoffs in the United States hit more than a 2-year high in January, according to the article. Now, companies like Google, Amazon, and Meta were all mentioned in the report because it what seems like some cost-cutting measures. The thing is that these companies were handy when it came to job numbers. Now all of a sudden they're starting to restructure, which is shaking things up a bit because this was not in the game plan. But the jobs report continues to look good. But right now there's just some things happening in the market that haven't happened before. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big head. Story number 8 at the top. Woo-wee! The top international headline and developing news story that made this week. Oh, I want to dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with some stories. Hey! Whew, just got to get it off. Sometimes you just got to let it out, you know. Especially when you get to the top story, you got to make it exciting so people can look, oh, that's the top story. Yeah. Story number 8. Is inflation slowing down? Big question. Some highly awaited numbers appeared in a USA Today inflation report showing that January CPI inflation rates slowed to 6.4%, but monthly inflation rose by 0.5%. Now, the article goes on to explain several factors contributing to high inflation stats. Now, it also explains how employers have added 517,000 jobs, causing a shock wave across market expectations. Now, the feds are on alert because at the moment inflation numbers are showing no signs of peaking, sounding the alarm on the 2% inflation target, which will cause the Fed to likely keep having to hike interest rates. Now, yes, the price hikes on eggs were also mentioned in the report. Now, this story is still developing as economists continue to crunch the numbers and try to get a grip on this economy. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I am just a mediator navigating your stories every week to keep people informed. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Happy President's Day. I am out of here. Have a good week. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.